Hey, it's John from Matchless Web, and I'm about to present to you what is, I think, the holy grail of WordPress configurations for optimizing page load times for 1 second and below. This is a WordPress site. This is my site that I've recently redesigned, and this Pingdom test you see gives a nice low load time of 292 milliseconds. Now, you might look at this screenshot that it captures. If I just click it again, like when it loads, you might say, well, there's no images. There must not be any images on this site, and that's why it loads so quickly. But if you actually visit my site, look at the homepage, there are full width images in different places. So there's not just text content on the site. It's not like it's a static website that's only HTML or something like that. This is a site that's got plenty of images. So that's not the case. It is just set up in such a way that all the JavaScript that is not needed for the page to display is actually deferred. Well, it's not deferred, it's delayed altogether, so that it's not even loading but two pieces of JavaScript on this page to load in, plus a lot of other optimizations. So this is a video just letting you know that there's a longer video where you can actually get the full rundown on how this all happens and what all tools I use to make it happen. But the video is called How I Got My WordPress Website to Load in 1 second or less from anywhere in the world. It is a long video. It's 36 minutes long. And it is that duration because I go into each and every of the plugins that are really optimizing things here. And I show you the exact configurations that I'm using. I'm not holding any, hiding any cards or anything. I'm really showing you exactly what it is that I'm doing here. And it's because I've just learned how to do this from other free resources around the web. Namely, I have to give a shout out to Gijo over at WP Speed Matters. This guy has produced some of the best WordPress optimization blog articles that I've ever come across. And he's also been very generous in releasing some free plugins on the WordPress repository that are just phenomenal for helping improve your load times. And one of his plugins, Flying Scripts, is one that really helps out on this website. And I'll show you how to configure that in the long video. But just to give you a high level overview of how this site is constructed, this site is running on Flywheel managed hosting, phenomenal host, fantastic support. This hosting paired with some recommendations from WP Speed Matters on using Cloudflare to set up page rules that let you cache your pages at edge servers all around the globe. Those things really combined help give you a really low time to first byte. So when you're already on phenomenal hosting, you probably have a low time to first byte. This key CDN tool lets you see how long it takes the first byte of information after a request is made. How long does it take for the first byte of information to be delivered? And so Google PageSpeed recommends that you have this under 200 milliseconds. And you can see in this example here that only one of them was north of 100 milliseconds. And of course, I'm in Clinton, Mississippi, and this is on the other side of the world, Bangalore. But gold standard is if you can have things under 100 milliseconds for time to first byte, then you're really doing something. So I just have to give a really big shout out and thanks to Gijo at WP Speed Matters because his content has really taught me a lot about optimizing WordPress. So check out his stuff. If you've been sleeping on this site, you've got to check it out. He's coming out with some kind of all-in-one plugin called Flying Press sometime in the near future. So keep your eyes out on that. I'm sure it's going to be just phenomenal. But right now, I'm just going to show you all the tools that I used to make this happen. And I guess before I do that, let me just show you this one more. If you've never used .com tools to test your site, this is a site where you can select multiple data centers around the world from which to test your site. And in this example, I didn't select all of them. I want to say there's 24, maybe 25 sites that you can test from around the world. There are a couple in China that currently, if you run the test, they actually will fail. I'm pretty sure they're just being blocked. But if you look at all the different data centers around the world, you can see what the load times are like for both the first and then the repeat visit. And if you are selected over a particular site, if you toggle between these, it shows you the first and repeat visits over here. So I don't know why on the Pingdom test it didn't show any image at all. I don't know if it was just, it took its little screenshot because in that particular test it showed up a little quicker. But you can see on all these, it's actually grabbing the image. So again, the site has content, it has images. It's just set up to really be smoking fast. Not a ton of resources being requested. And then by the time you make it to second visit, after the browser has been able to cache some things, the average second visit is under 1 second, with a lot of these being 500 milliseconds or half a second or less. And I'll include a link to to this test so that you can look at the waterfall and then just see how this is the waterfall for the same test. But you can see that there's not a ton of resources being loaded here. And even those that are, there's not a lot of JavaScript. The only JavaScript that's loading right now is the jQuery JavaScript, which is a dependency for many other plugins and themes to work. So that's usually something that has to load in the head of the site. It can't usually be deferred, loaded asynchronously, or delayed to afterload using something like Flying Scripts, which is one of the WP SpeedMatters plugins that I'll talk about in the next video. But you have that piece of JavaScript, and then there's the combined JavaScript file, the concatenated JavaScript, where all the JavaScript files were lumped together and put into one just to reduce DNS requests. So any other JavaScript that loads on that page, and there is some other JavaScript, it is actually being loaded after the page has fully become idle whenever the page reloads. And I'll just demonstrate that for you really quickly. So I have Google Tag Manager on this site, and it is currently injecting a Facebook pixel and Google Analytics tracking code, as well as my ActiveCampaign, which is my email service provider, the tracking scripts for each of those. Rather than loading immediately on the front end of the page load and being a render blocking resource, blocking the rest of the visual components of the page from being seen, they're actually being delayed by the Flying Scripts plugin so that they don't actually fire until 5 seconds after page load. You can set it to from anywhere from like 1 to 10 seconds delay. But you can see I have a Facebook pixel here. If I refresh my cache, clear out the cache, you'll see that the pixel doesn't fire right away. It's waiting, and boom, then you have the pixel fire. So that is, there are a few other pieces of JavaScript that are also getting lumped into that delay. But in the back end of that plugin, you can basically just take any JavaScript files and tell them to not load on the front end of the site until after the entire page has loaded and the browser has become idle in the background. So yeah, this is the site. Feel free to test it for yourself. Drop it into any of the testing tools that you've got. Because honestly, when I first started using this configuration and ran the numbers and everything, I was kind of finding it hard to believe. I was thinking there's got to be something wrong. Like it's almost too fast. What is this? And hardcore speed junkies will actually even might point out that if you look at some of the other information in these reports that are linked below, for the total amount of images on the page, some speed enthusiasts would say, gosh, that's too much. It's too big of a chunk of files, of image files to be loading on the page. So these could even be trimmed down further. And they're already being, these images are already being resized and served as WebP format if the browser can accept WebP format. That function is actually being performed by the WP EmuDev Smush plugin. You can see some of the images on my page are actually loaded by that image CDN, which can resize and convert some images into WebP if it's compatible. But I don't know that I mentioned it already, but the plugin overviews that I'll give you in the next video are WP Rocket. I'll show you exactly what settings I use on that, as well as Perf Matters, Flying Scripts by WP SpeedMatters, and then again, that Smush Pro version. Now, all these are paid products except for Flying Scripts. So this is a premium solution to getting your site fast. So this is not a free option for improving your page speed. So if you've got some money to play with on this, these are some great tools that you can use to improve your page speed. So try out this configuration and let me know if you get any kind of similar results. And if you try it on a different host, let me know how that goes, because I'm curious to see how my host, Flywheel, stacks up against other hosts that might use the same configuration. The links to all these products are below. I am an affiliate for several of the plugins and whatnot that are used for this stuff. So you'll find those affiliate links below if you want to check them out and not go through my links. I get it. Just Google it. You can find the stuff on your own. Totally fine. But check out the long video. Again, it's grab some popcorn. It's 36 minutes. But that is the full rundown where I'll give you all the Cloudflare settings, the individual plugin settings. You'll see it all. No, I'm not holding my cards close to my chest. I'm just showing you how this works, because it took me a while to gather this information and figure out how all the pieces work together. And it would have been nice if somebody else could have, taught me some of this stuff all in one go so that it didn't take me so long. But maybe you guys can learn from this and save yourself a lot of learning curve by implementing the strategy, this particular configuration to get your WordPress site scooting. So hit me with any questions. Let me know if you try this out. I'm genuinely curious to see if other people are able to replicate this using this combination of settings or something similar. So let me know what you try out. Again, I'm John, and this is Matchless Web.